One of the most important parts of life is forming meaningful relationships with other people, which is why even though Elon Musk is worth almost $200 billion, the one thing in life he truly wants is for someone to actually think he's funny for once. There's about 8 billion people in the world, each with their own unique quirks and personalities. But while no two relationships are alike, realistically, there are only about 8 different ways you can be related to someone. Generally speaking, to someone else, you are one of the following: a friend, family member, romantic partner, acquaintance, coworker, enemy, stranger, or an ex. All relationships fall into one of these 8 categories, so it's important to understand each of them in order to avoid any awkward situations or misunderstandings. First up is a friend, and this one is pretty self-explanatory as almost everyone in the world has at least one friend unless they play League of Legends. Basically, a friend is someone with whom you share a common interest, speak to on a regular basis, and enjoy spending time with. You guys probably have similar values and enjoy doing a lot of the same things. Friendships are great because out of all the different types of relationships, these offer the greatest amount of flexibility and are relatively easy to maintain. Some friends see each other every day, and some friends only speak to each other a few times a year. Some of your friends will be at your wedding, and some of your friends will never meet you in real life. This is because it doesn't really take much for a group of people to become friends. All you really need is some common ground. It could be the experience of pushing your body to its mental and physical limits in military boot camp, or if you're like me and you went to public school, your friend group is the same 4 guys that kept showing up in all your classes for the next 12 years. As with all relationships, there are boundaries when it comes to friendships, and it's important to never cross these lines as they can quickly ruin a good thing. These boundaries do vary depending on the nature of the friendship, but in my experience, here are some good rules to follow. Dating your friend's siblings, not cool. Making fun of your friend's haircut, always okay. Talking about your friend's ex-girlfriend, she was mid anyway. Dating your friend's ex-girlfriend, I hope you're bulletproof. Overall, friends are some of the most common types of relationships that people have, and good friends can make even your worst days feel a little bit better. Next, we have family members. The thing about family members is that unlike friends, you don't get to pick them, and unless you have a twin, nobody is the same age as you. So this can make relating to them a bit difficult at times. Fortunately, you'll always have 2 people who love you unconditionally and will support you no matter what: your grandparents. One of the perks about family members is that they've known you longer than anyone else. This is really cool because it means that they feel uniquely qualified to judge every single thing you do. So if you're ever feeling too confident in yourself, you can thank your family for keeping you humble. And you don't need to worry about this going away either, because no matter how much you grow as a person, nothing will change the perception of you they've created in their head. Like friends, family members also tend to have varying degrees of familiarity. On one hand, you have people like your parents who you see almost every day. And on the other, there's that distant relative who swears they used to hold you all the time as a baby, but you've never seen this person a day in your life. The third kind of relationship is a romantic partner. And this is often the most sought after form of relationship, as this is the person you get to have sex with. Unfortunately, romantic partnerships are arguably the most difficult relationships to maintain and require a great deal of patience and effort from both parties. Because unlike friendships, in order to keep a girlfriend, you actually have to talk to her at least once a day. On top of that, romantic partnerships are almost like a history class, as one of the most important things is remembering a bunch of dates. Another thing about romantic partnerships is that with room for a few exceptions, these relationships are entirely exclusive and you're limited to just having one for the rest of your life. So it's really important that you're careful not to mess it up, because finding someone else still willing to have sex with you after becoming aware of your deepest insecurities is pretty hard to do. Acquaintances are probably one of the most common type of relationship one can have. This is because they take absolutely zero effort to maintain, and a single person can have hundreds or even thousands of people they've been acquainted with. Acquaintances are people that you know, but you aren't close enough to call each other friends. However, since you've been introduced to each other before, when you walk past them on the way to class, you still feel obligated to say what's up and have a brief conversation that neither of you actually care about. But it's still good to have people you're familiar with, because you never know when you might need one extra person to fill out your intramural basketball team or to add you to the class GroupMe. Coworkers. Coworkers are pretty self-explanatory. They're just people that you work with. And while you might not be the closest friends, the bond between 2 people working a closing shift at 1 a.m. can be more intimate than some marriages. The thing about coworkers is that in many cases, you might see them more often than your actual friends. So it's natural that you end up forming some kind of relationship with the people you spend several hours with every day. This bond is even stronger if they happen to hate their job just as much as you do. However, since this is a workplace relationship, it's important to at least maintain some level of professionalism and remember that it's never a good idea to date your coworkers. Look, I'm sure they probably look very nice in their hand-me-down uniform, but as the saying goes, you should never shit where you eat. And no one wants to deal with the awkward fallout of a workplace relationship relationship when we all don't want to be there anyway. Now, no matter how many friends you might have, we all have people that we don't like. But being consciously aware of someone's existence while still wishing them nothing but the worst in life is in fact the type of relationship. Generally in life, it's not a good idea to have a lot of enemies. And I'd say if you have too many enemies, then you might want to start doing some self-reflection. However, it is important to stand up for yourself. And if someone crosses your boundaries and refuses to make amends, then you might have to make a couple bands while you're lonely. Strangers. This one doesn't need much of an explanation. They're pretty much anyone you don't know at all. Despite this, there are some strangers you do encounter on a regular basis, like the clerks at your local grocery store, the people who have a class in the same building as you, and the girl in the gym you'll never have the courage to ask out on a date. The thing about strangers is that everyone in your life was a stranger at some point, so if there's someone out there you want to get to know, you have nothing to lose by striking up a conversation. The last type of relationship is an ex. And when people say ex, they usually mean a former romantic partner. But exes can also be former friends, former coworkers, or anyone you had some kind of relationship with that is no longer there. The thing about exes is that even if there was no bad blood at the end of the relationship, you generally try to avoid each other because you end up in this weird gray area where you'll never go back to being strangers, but you both know you'll never be friends. Although it can be uncomfortable, exes are just another part of life, and you just kind of have to accept that no matter how much you reconcile, things will always be a little weird between you and that person. Just be sure that no matter what you do, never get back with your ex. Now that we've covered the different types of relationships, I also wanted to take some time to run through some fake relationships as well. These are attachments you may form with other people that give you the feeling of being close to someone when you're really not connected with each other at all. So be mindful of these because they're actually quite common. If you've ever taken a class on anything, you'll know that at some point, professors like to incorporate a group activity that literally nobody asked for. So after weeks of telling you to come in, shut up, and listen to them talk for 50 minutes, they then want you to form a working relationship with about 3 to 4 people who sit on the opposite side of the room. Now, while every college orientation leader says that the person sitting next to you in a lecture hall could be your new best friend, it's likely that the people in your class all have their own individual friend groups and they probably aren't looking to add some random dude from Econ 2110. But to make things a bit less awkward, you all pretend to be good friends solely for the duration of the project. Now, this isn't to say that you'll never meet a classmate who ends up becoming a really good friend, but it turns out that a classroom where you're not really supposed to talk isn't exactly the most conducive environment for making genuine friends. Talking stages. These are great if you just really enjoy wasting your time. The early stages of a romantic relationship can sometimes be the most uncomfortable as you begin to get to know each other on a deeper level. And sometimes people like to take this slow and not be quick to put a label on things so there's no pressure if it doesn't work out. But the big problem with talking stages is that despite there being a whole lot of talking, there isn't a whole lot of communicating. So sometimes things get messy as one person's expectations end up not aligning with the others and the whole thing goes down the drain. Talking stages are often thought of as a precursor to a relationship, but the truth is that if that person really cared about you, they would have made a move already. So don't waste your time trying to convince somebody to like you and go find somebody who does. Lastly, we have parasocial relationships. Because in a world where access to other people's lives can be found in the palm of your hand, people tend to form one-sided attachments to those who don't even know that they exist. And while parasocial relationships can be found in almost every community on the internet, it's important to remember that the musical artist, Twitch streamer, or Twitter user that you enjoy is not actually your friend. So if you ever find yourself being a little too online and arguing with Minecraft stands on Twitter, this can be easily fixed by turning off your phone and going outside. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and drop a comment down below if there's something you want to see me talk about next. As always, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.